Hey, everybody. This is Victor with Victor H Investing. And today is a treat. I get to collaborate with Trader Prad. And as you guys have seen on other streams, he is a regular attending my streams, and I'm a regular on his streams. I've been away for about a week and a half, been having some fun. Went to New York City as well as Connecticut. Had a great time with my wife, and probably spent a little too much money, but that's all right. Got to do that once in a while. And now I'm back. So I got to figure out, hey, man, how am I going to make some money so I can replenish that cash that I burned having a good time with my wife? My wife is happy. I'm happy. And we're already talking about where we're going to go in January. So let's try to figure out how to make some money. So first and foremost, Prad, how are you, sir?
I'm great. Missed watching your streams. As you said, you were on vacation. I just want to say a quick note about that. Maybe a real good thing about being not a day trader in your world is you're not worried about the opportunity cost on top of the vacation cost. Because if I was to go on vacation, I'm thinking about, oh man, I missed this trade. That's $1,000. I missed that trade. That's another $1,000. There's so many trades I missed, and on top of that, I'm spending another 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 on this vacation. This vacation just turned into a 10,000, like $20,000 vacation. So the opportunity cost is something that day traders always have to kind of have in the back of their mind. But in your world, I think you can just kind of check out, come back, look at the portfolio, and obviously, if you saw it recently, it's been beautiful for you, your portfolio.
Yeah, I think the prettiest flower in the investing garden for me has been Bitcoin. And
Okay.
Bitcoin interrupted my awesome vacation, but in a good way. I kept getting these alerts of Bitcoin price going up and up. And it was very easy to share with my wife. Hey, sweetheart, Bitcoin's up 5-10% a day. And it really was fun to watch Bitcoin. It got up to $99,850. And oh man, if it touches 100,000, that'll be such a cool moment. But remember feeling that way when it got to 25,000, 50,000, 75,000. Now we're up to 100 grand. Bitcoin specifically, I was on an investor call earlier, which is why I'm a little late. I apologize for that. Is I don't see I should phrase it this way, which is I would not be surprised if 5 years from now we do another collaboration and we're looking at a Bitcoin price of 500,000. Wouldn't be a surprise.
That's gonna be crazy. Oh my god.
But you look at the chart that we've seen with Bitcoin, and that would mean that it's going to go up 250% from this point,
Yeah.
100 grand up to 500 grand. Well, geez, it's gone up 165% in 1 year. So it's not crazy. It's just kind of like, follow the math. And I would not be surprised if we're at $500,000 per coin. So anyway, I'm super curious to kind of hear from you, maybe how you've been trading for the last couple of weeks. We had the election. The markets are like really pumped that, Donald Trump is going to really assist a lot of markets and really be a tailwind to certain stock sectors. But I'm really curious to see, how did you take advantage, adjust in your trades for the past few weeks? And maybe a little later, we can talk about how you're adjusting going forward.
Yeah, I mean, in the start of November, obviously, with the election coming around, people kind of saw if you were looking at Polygon or Kelshi, I think is another website where you can use to check politics and who's winning and numbers and so on. So, looking at those numbers, people had an idea that Trump was gonna potentially win the race. And based on that, you had stocks, according to Trump, or in the Trump realm, really start catching traction. So you got DJT, you got cryptocurrency names such as Coinbase, MicroStrategy. You had energy names going to the downside. You had bank names going to the upside. And right after election happened, the whole basket of stocks known as the Trump basket of stocks, they all just started blasting off. For example, once again, we're looking at Coinbase having that traction even after Coinbase reporting not as good of an earnings report as I believe that they could have reported. With the hype in cryptocurrencies, with the rise in cryptocurrency prices, Coinbase is reporting like a down a volume, less fees generated, less monthly active users. But then right after 3 days after the election, you're watching Coinbase go up to 300, 350. You're watching MicroStrategy yesterday hit like $500. So things just went absolutely off the rails. Options writers got so many stocks wrong. They even mispriced Tesla. So a lot of people got caught offside. Options writer got burned, probably even shut down offices for a lot of these options market makers. So the election event was absolutely bonkers. It gave you parabolic movers to the long side. It gave you opportunity to look for the shorts. Also, MSTR short on Friday was absolutely insane. Thursday, sorry. Was it Thursday where it crashed from 500 or something? But either way, so opportunities were just a dime a dozen. You just have to focus in on and kind of look for them. For example, if you were just watching Apple because you just like trading Apple, then you missed out on moves like Tesla. Apple just stuck in a very tight range for the last few days, whereas Tesla, you would see how insane of a rally Tesla has had, how insane of a rally Coinbase has had. So being a selective trader in terms of, I look for volume, I look for movers, I look for something that actually has a hype behind it. You can even look at a stock such as DXYZ. Just because Elon and Trump are now such big buddy good friends, and Trump loved seeing the SpaceX event where the booster got caught by the Maxilla arm, DXYZ started blasting off to the upside. So even small stocks related to events had a big turnover.
Awesome, man. So it's just been, man, this month it's just been incredible. The rally after the election. So now giving you a perspective from a long-term investor, it's a little bit of, I kind of set some things up that really just beyond started working. They just kind of exploded. So Coinbase is a stock that I own. It's one of the stocks, I think might be the only stock that I abandon, discounted free cash flow models. I abandon, looking at earnings per share. And the reason for it is it's my investment in Bitcoin, which is the same thing, which is I believe in this space. Now, for me to imagine that, hey, this is what the space is going to look like in 5 years, I'm just not smart enough, or I'm not foolish enough to think I can do it. But I know that the space is valuable. So I started investing some time ago. So Coinbase just took off, and it's been a beautiful rise. The other rumor that I hear is that the CEO of Coinbase may end up joining the Trump administration as one of the crypto czar. So that most definitely would help Coinbase, right? Because you'd have a lot of influence that would help Coinbase. I agree with your observation on Coinbase, right? Being, the fundamentals are not going to get us to the valuation. But there's other macro elements that I think are driving the appreciation of Coinbase. Bitcoin itself, I think it's really, there's the current administration for the last 4 years has really stressed crypto, Bitcoin. Gary Gensler have pushed on crypto, pushed it back, tried to control it, try to marginalize it. And I think that's a good thing, because now it's like you just, crypto, to use an analogy, was just pumping iron, getting stronger, just becoming a beast. And now that you have Gary Gensler out of the picture, it's like, holy smokes, you're going to let the beast out. And it's going to be like a linebacker that weighs 400 pounds and is just all muscle that can run really fast. I think the markets are going to have a problem with Bitcoin. I think it's just going to keep rising. So as a long-term investor, boy, it's been a fun month. Long-term investors, 2022. Let us not forget that was not a fun year.
Right.
That's
Right.
a year where you're like, I believe in Meta. I'm not selling any of my shares, but God, it doesn't feel good seeing
No.
my stock go down day after day. And I believe, replace Meta with these other companies that are believed in. So this past month has just been a pretty fun party. And I expect as a long-term investor that we're going to be caught up in this for a little while. I don't think we're going to have a 4-year, up and to the right period of time. I think we'll have natural corrections. It would be good, frankly, to have a nice 20% correction at some point. And that would be an opportunity for a guy like me to really kind of begin to just add across the board. For now, I'm trying to be very precise. I'm going after small caps that I think are either investors are not familiar with that small cap company is misunderstood, and it's an opportunity. But I'm probably holding and waiting and kind of using Charlie Munger's terminology. The late great Charlie Munger is just sitting on my ass. Just sitting on my
Sometimes
ass
that's
and
the
watching
best
stocks
strategy.
appreciate.
Sometimes that's the best strategy.
Yeah. So coming up this week, what's your plan for the coming week?
So I haven't really done my homework yet. Usually I go through stocks that are reporting earnings. So I'm looking at the earnings board right now. Looks like we have some stocks that are a little of importance. So Zoom, obviously I know you have Zoom of some importance in your books, if I remember correctly. Zoom is reporting tomorrow after hours. Allegiant Technologies or Alliant Technologies reporting tomorrow also after hours. We got ANF Tuesday before market. That's going to be a big name to keep on watch. That stock has had an insane reversal for the last few years. Best Buy is going to be on watch for Tuesday before market open. Macy's, Burlington, DKS, that's Dick's Sporting Goods. So a couple names still over here. CrowdStrike Tuesday after hours. So a couple names for me to go over. Chart. Look to see how they have been moving in the most recent days. But for the most part, the theme is still the same. The theme is going to be the crypto basket. It's going to be the nuclear energy basket. So NNE, OKLO, SMR. These stocks have been going crazy just as we are going into the transition to Trump's inauguration. And I think there's still so many reasons for the market to still continue going higher. We got the potential Santa Claus rally, as the market calls it, coming up. Then we got the Trump inauguration coming up. And according to history, from what I've seen in charts, according to history, usually going into the inauguration, we kind of dip down a little bit, and then after the inauguration, we start rallying higher. Especially with the president that we know who's going to be taking place, Trump. We know how good he's for the market. We know he's going to talk about tariffs. We know he's going to talk about defunding stocks like LMT, RTX, and so on. But he's also talking about buying a cryptocurrency exchange, BKKT. So that's like in the small cap realm. That could potentially appreciate a lot if it actually ends up going through. So there's so many names here in so many different pockets of sectors. So one is the cryptocurrency sector. The other one's the energy sector. The other one's the banking sector. XLF is at all-time high at the moment. BAC all-time high. Wells Fargo all-time high. JP Morgan all-time high. So we got all kinds of the good pockets of place to play with. Affirm, even some of these growth names are having insane reversals. So honestly, wherever you look on the market, we're getting back into that beautiful market era where Trump was president in 2020 and everything just was rallying. You pick a stock, it was at 300 PE. For example, Carvana right now is at 29,000 PE. Who cares? We're still buying it. We like the stock. we like the stock. So right now I feel the energy in the market just feels like we're about to go back to 2020 market.
Yep. And, you know, great stuff. Great stuff. And I wanted to jump off a couple points you made. And the first one, I believe that for the last 4 years, the number of acquisitions, mergers, and I think the IPOs have been
Low.
really low. And
Yeah.
that's because, the Department of Justice, and I have nothing against the current administration. In fact, I will say that I think Joe Biden is a very decent person. I think he'd be a pretty interesting dude to go for a hike with, or maybe go mountain bike with. But aside from that, just, I'm a stock investor, and some of the things they've done are just dumb. Just like how they're going after Google. It's like, hey, Google,
Yeah.
you got there when Google entered the search market. They were like company number 50 that got into search, but they did it better than anybody. Hands down. Nobody's going to argue that. So now that they become so dominant in the markets they choose by innovation, hard work, sticking to it, those are the principles that built the United States of America. So for you guys to beat up on a company like that and say, well, they're a bad company because they're too successful. They worked too hard. They studied too much. They brought too many good ideas to the table. I just think that's just absolutely dumb. So that type of behavior is really held back acquisitions, mergers, and I think that's going to be part of the recipe going forward for the next 4 years. And that's why I'm looking at small caps is like, hey, there's a little bit of a lottery that you play with small caps. I was an Activision stockholder overnight. I think it was 62% appreciation when Microsoft acquired them. When in Trump's era, I probably had 3 stocks get acquired. And on each occasion, I was like, sweet, I just made X overnight. Under Biden's administration, I had 0 events like that. So it's like, all right, hopefully we get back to that. Hey, small caps naturally should be acquired by some larger caps. In most situations, everybody wins. That company has greater access to capital, support to grow whatever solution or product or service they're providing, and they service or help more customers. And the acquiring company grows because they are stronger, more able to, service their customers. So that's one change that I see is going to be a positive. And how do you play any merger acquisition kind of storylines? Does that come into your playbook?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of playbooks basically called, mergers and acquisitions or buyout acquisition, where you just try to make a market. You take advantage of multiple routing gateways that offer you rebates for providing liquidity. If there's a lot of volume, you can just kind of sit on the bid, sit on the offer, and just churn through between the bid and offer. Usually, when these stocks make those announcements, they trade in a very tight range and have a lot of liquidity between those ranges. So just by providing liquidity, you're collecting fees, you're collecting the spread also. You're throwing crazy volume up there. You're throwing 10,000 shares on each side, and the stock is just bouncing between 5 pennies or 1 penny, and it's just going back and forth, back and forth. You're just collecting 1 cent spread, and you're also collecting fees every time. It's like a buyout strategy, but like you said, there haven't been many of them this year at all. Back in 2020, I remember there would be so many of them. Activision, for example, would be one of them. There would be also a little bit of a different strategy that I'm not really allowed to talk too much about because people would get mad at me if I talked about that one. But there's also another strategy on mergers and acquisitions, which is a little bit more important strategy than the other one. So yeah, so there's a bunch of strategies that are deployable for traders, but not many chose to go that route, usually because back in the day, the fee structures would be insane. You would be paying, $7 in, $7 out in Canada. Maybe in America it would be much cheaper than that, but now you're paying maybe $0 in, $0 out, right? So in different fee structures, people can take advantage of things like that, just sitting on the bid, sitting on the offer, catching the spread as the stock just bounces up and forth. On Activision, I've done that so many times where I just wait for the stock to go really far above VWAP. I get short for a move back into VWAP, or I wait for it to go really below VWAP, and I wait for it to get long and to move back into VWAP because it's being acquired. It should never really go too much below VWAP, and it should never go really too far above VWAP. So it just keeps going back and forth, and I'm just scalping this range, giving me a $2-3 range to play with, and it was one of the easiest trades that I've ever had in the Activision days. I still remember those days, and I miss Activision very, very much.
So I'm gonna play a game with you. I'm kind of dropping on you, so no preparation. So I'll go first.
Ooh, hot.
So what's that one small cap company that's going to be acquired? And I'll go first, and then I'll try to make a note of it. And then obviously if it hits on your side, I'll be like, hey man, isn't Prad a genius? He said it on November 24th. So my stock is Roblox, RBLX. And the reason for it is they basically have the model that YouTube has for gaming. They don't write games. They don't develop games. They have a platform. Developers develop games, and the fans of those games go onto the platform, and then they monetize it. I just think it makes so much sense for Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon. I mean, all these big, gigantic companies to acquire that company. I've been in and out of that stock. More recently, it really flourished. But that's the one stock that I'm like, that one makes too much sense strategically for some company to pick it up. So thoughts on that one?
So I personally am anti-Roblox, mainly because of my gaming culture. I'm a big gamer. I'm a big FPS guy, and Roblox never really fit into my gaming culture. Also, when Roblox came out, I was much older. It was a game for children, and it was advertised to them. So if you were caught playing Roblox, you were made fun of because you were older, right? So I never really played Roblox. I never got into it. But when it comes to looking at Roblox's numbers, they all look good. And the beautiful thing about Roblox is they have really tapped into the most lucrative part of gaming, which is daddy's bank account. Usually gamers such as myself, you used to spend money, but at my age, you're like, dude, this is a waste of money. I'm not spending money on little cosmetics and games anymore, like a skin in game or whatever. But kids, they want to show off to other people in other games and so on. So Roblox has tapped into a really lucrative part. I think Roblox could also really be a big benefactor in the VR world eventually whenever that kicks off. So I could see an acquisition of Roblox. I think I have talked about that on my stream, but since you took that pick, I will pick something that I don't like also. So this is another company that I don't really use their product as much. I'll go with Snapchat. Snapchat with their augmented reality, virtual reality, they're trying to compete with Meta with the glasses and so on. So I'll pick Snapchat because if Meta has a little bit of a competition on that side through Snapchat, Google has previously tried making Google Lens and failed big time doing so. They could just say, you know what, Snapchat, you work for us now. With DOJ out of the way and potentially Trump's DOJ in the way, they're not going to block the deal, hopefully. They're not going to block the deal. And we're going to buy Snapchat out. We're going to try and compete with Meta. We're going to try and compete with all other AI companies, VR companies. We're going to try and compete with Apple with their VR headset. So I think Snapchat would be my pick.
So interesting you bring that one up. You likely know Facebook did try to acquire Snapchat.
They did? Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
This is going back 20 years ago. Okay. This is when Snapchat like first came out, and they were kind of quite of a splash, right? Because they were I think they were kind of like TikTok before TikTok.
Right.
You could have a post and then it disintegrated. So youngsters really liked it because I imagine it's behind after my time. They could do crazy things, and then the history was vaporized. So
Yeah.
Facebook approached them, I think offered them 2 billion, and Snapchat said, no, no, thank you. We're going to do our own thing. That proved to be a giant, in my opinion, a giant mistake for Snapchat. They tried to go on their own, and Snapchat hasn't been a great investment. Facebook has. And Facebook, talk about a company that's acquired quality businesses, Instagram, WhatsApp.
What's that?
The Oculus acquisition still hasn't made sense. No ROI there, but
Reality Labs.
they've been brilliant at it. I can't argue with that one. I think Snapchat could be acquired. We'll see. Maybe X will acquire Snapchat.
Yeah.
Right? That's like, Elon Musk. That's like his lunch money to acquire a
Well,
company like
he
that.
apparently he's interested to buy MSNBC now because they're up for sale.
Oh my God, that would be a paradox, huh?
Yeah.
Because I think MSNBC is more left leaning, and obviously Elon is a little more right leaning. But
Yeah.
maybe he'll change that around. It'll be like, hey, Fox 2.0. That'd be interesting. That would be really interesting. All right, cool. So now we're getting toward the end of the year. And speaking for myself, I begin to think about, okay, harvest any losses you have out there. I'm having a good year, which means that on December 31st, I get a virtual pat in the back by the government that says, good job. And then the next thing that comes out of their mouth is, where's my tax money? So I'm looking to harvest some tax losses and start to organize some exit strategies on some stocks that I believe, hey, what I thought was going to happen over the next couple of years, maybe I was thinking in 2022, has happened. Let me take some money off the table. And in some cases, I'm like buy and hold, kind of for as long as I can conceivably think about, like Coinbase as an example. I just leave that alone. But that's my thinking as we get toward the end as a long-term investor. What do you start thinking about as we enter the month of December? Does anything change for you?
As a day trader, I guess nothing really changes. All that matters is as long as there's something to trade, as long as there's volatility, as long as there's opportunities. I'm not going out there forcing setups. I'm not going out there forcing trades because of a lack of a real opportunity or a lack of a real trade. So it all just comes down to being disciplined, looking for opportunities, and if the opportunities are there, just hitting it and smashing it. So in a day trader's world, it's kind of different than when it comes to like investing, I guess. So that's my main focus, and I think I'm not really worried about that too much because with the way we're going right now, if things just keep carrying this way, I think we got another great 4 years of the market coming up.
Very good. All right, cool. So there's one stock that I'd like to review, and that's small cap, tiny cap. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's BTBT. Have you seen that symbol?
If I remember, it's a Chinese company, Chinese mining company, or no?
No, I think they might be Canadian.
Canadian, okay.
But they started as a cryptocurrency or Bitcoin and Ethereum company, a Bitcoin
Okay.
miner, and then they also have been staking Ethereum. So as the AI industry, NVIDIA develops GPUs, graphical processing units, back to the gaming space, right?
Mm-hmm.
NVIDIA started because gamers needed accelerated graphics.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
I have an NVIDIA still in my computer.
look at you. Well, you should sell that computer for $100,000. But anyway, back to BTBT. So we know GPUs are, super hot, red hot. NVIDIA's stock price super red hot, and that's because companies are building large language models and they need high performance computing for that. So BTBT originally started using GPUs to mine Bitcoin, so they became good at it. Well, more recently they said, hey, well, we know how to run GPUs and we know where to run them so we can get optimal energy pricing. Like they have operations in Iceland. And when you build large language models, it doesn't matter where you build them because you don't have latency. You don't have like a user waiting on you to build a large language model. It just happens kind of in a void or a vacuum. And then once it's done, then you make it accessible to your application. So these guys have dipped their toe and really leaped into high performance computing. So now they're a Bitcoin miner that does high performance computing. And you look at their stock, it's been doing this, right? You can't see my screen. Sorry about that. So you can see their stock here. It hasn't really made up its mind, or the market hasn't made up its mind on what they're going to do with this stock. It's a tiny cap. But there's ingredients to this stock that make it interesting to me. First is they have an established business, Bitcoin mining, which is doing pretty damn good. Second, they have this new business, which is pretty red hot, which is hyperscaler around GPU capacity. So those two things make a lot of sense to me. And the other piece to them that is, and I'd love to get your opinion, and specifically, I got to get on a call or something with Angry Buddha, who could probably dissect this better than I can. One of the things that I see that's a misalignment, and I don't know if they're going to show it to us, but I'd have to go to their financials, is when you look at their cash flow statement, and I value companies based on their discounted free cash flow. And when the accounting rules are set, by generally accepted accounting principles that are written 50 years ago, there was nothing addressed for cryptocurrency. So when you have a miner earn, the Bitcoins when they're part of the validation process, it doesn't get represented in free cash flow. And I'm seeing that their free cash flow is under reported by $114 million per year. And I wanted to see if you've gotten into financials for these Bitcoin miners and see that, hey, the market doesn't really understand them. There's an opportunity here. I'm beginning to see that in these types of companies. But what are your thoughts on Bitcoin miners?
For the most part, when it comes to crypto miners, I'm mainly watching Mara or Riot for a day trading opportunity, and Mara, based off their earnings report, they actually, reacted very negatively compared to how cryptocurrencies have been going. But if you look at Mara after the earnings report, just like how cryptocurrencies have been going, it's right back up to the north side. So when it comes to miners, I kind of stay with the ones that have the most volume and the most volatility in them for that day. If BTBT shows up on the scanners, then I'll obviously keep a look on BTBT too. But when it comes to actually looking at the financials and so on, I try not to look at those because they tend to, give me judgment biases or some sort of opinion that will keep me looking for one direction or the other. For example, if I was only trading off the cryptocurrency moves, and if I didn't look at the earnings report on Mara, I would have potentially got burnt. But looking at the earnings report, that would give me a bias. So in that sense, it's good. But in this sense, if I see that the numbers are actually doing bad, but the stock is going higher, and I just want to keep on shorting it, then it's just gonna hurt me. So I try not to have too much of a bias for day trading sense. Only thing that matters is like price action. Price action is king. Those are the words that a lot of people in day trading worlds have said a million times. So I try not to look at too much fundamentals and stuff. The only time I really look at that is when the company is potentially IPOing. Other than that, when it comes to um, earnings reports, I'll look at potentially PE of the company to see how expensive the company could be compared to the stock price. And if the PE is ridiculously high, then maybe I'll look for a potential higher short than previously. But if it's not a high PE, for example, Gap recently reported, popped up high. Their PE is like 13 something. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to try and short Gap. But however, if you look for a short on Gap, it gave you a really good short on that day where you could have gotten $2, $1 per share for risking maybe 30 cents, 20 cents. So that gave you a really good short on the earnings day itself. If you got short through 25, but just because I saw that the PE was 13, I said I'm not going to short Gap. I'll only look for long as it stays above 25. Sadly, I missed out on a beautiful short. So things like that,
Interesting.
I try not to let it over bias me.
Got it. Got it. So it looks like Angry Buddha co-signed your Mara comment to some extent. I think he has his own comment, but I'm trying to see if Angry Buddha might give me a price target that he thinks Bitcoin is going to get to in a
He
year
is
and
your
then in 5 years.
go-to guy for Bitcoin. He is
I
absolutely in the crypto world. He's in there.
he's the guy I know. That's why I'm asking
Yeah.
him. I'm kind of a, a diversifier. Like, hey, conceptually I agreed with cryptocurrencies, um, but in to get to precise kind of conclusions and dissecting, kind of like I'm probably best at looking at free cash flows. And that's because I was an accountant. I did financials. I've worked in industry for a long time, and I can look at financials and say, "Hey, this is what I think the company's worth." And I've invested in real estate, and real estate's pure cash flow driven. You buy a real estate asset because you believe it's going to drive certain cash flows. So that's my game, and I leave the game of Bitcoin valuations to Angry Buddha. He's saying that I guess in a 1 year price target, 168. Woohoo! All right. Like where your head's at, Angry Buddha.
168,000? Is that
No,
what that means? Okay.
168,000. Yeah, yeah, sorry.
Okay, okay, that's crazy. Okay.
Now
I
in
mean,
5 years, in
probably
five
not that
years,
crazy.
all right, $340,000 per coin. Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. I would like to see that happen. And you know what's crazy about Bitcoin is so as we looked at Bitcoin pricing um for the past year, right? I've bought over the past year. Obviously now I feel like I didn't buy enough. So I bought like at certain points and then it started to really move and I got chicken. I was afraid. Oh no. And then it took off, which I'm happy for. But hey, man, at least I didn't sell anything, and we'll just see where it goes.
Yeah, my biggest regret is taking profits. So now I have nothing and I'm just watching the chart go up and up and up. So that's going to be a sad, sad story for me. When my kids ask me, Dad, why are we not eating steak like Uncle Angry Buddha and why are we eating ramen noodles every day? I'm going to tell them it's because Daddy didn't hold Bitcoin and Angry Buddha did.
Oh man. So Charlie Munger, and it still cracks me up. He was asked, "Hey, what do you think about Bitcoin?" And he said, "Bitcoin, it's rat poison." And I thought it was
Oh, this
hilarious.
is a rat poison I would love to have, huh?
Yeah, I'm like, "Hey man, give me more rat poison, please."
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, cool stuff. Well, it's good to catch up. What else would you like to talk about? What else is like out there that you think is worth kicking around?
I think people need to be, excited about what's happening in the market at the moment. There's opportunities, even if people are worried about, entering the market at the right moment. There's never the right moment. It's like having a kid. You're never ready for it. Just dive into it. start slow, start with tiny amount that you're willing to lose, start with paper trading, take advantages of channels like Victor H Investing, like myself, and other tons of great channels. Scott, that Victor brings on a couple times, Scott's due diligence and so on, to take advantage of these channels and learn as much as you can, soak up the information, because right now it feels like we're gonna have a great times in the market, and anyone who feels like they're gonna miss out, this is the right time to start. Get to work. Start learning. Start putting in that work.
I totally agree, man. And the there's one expression, and I have to give credit, and I know it's going to go over very poorly, to Jim Cramer. And he says, he has an expression which is, there's always a bull market at any point in time. And
Yeah.
I agree with that, which is, there's always a good investment in the market, no matter what market we're in. But it's a matter of doing the homework and then finding it, and then making good investments. And the best investment might be, sell out of one position or partially, and then go into something else. So I think it's gotten a little harder because, man, stock prices are high. You look at Tesla, it moved up. You look at, Meta's been rocking for 2 years. Well, I'm just holding my Meta shares. I'm not selling any, but I'm just holding. So I'm really looking for that next move. Here's another, piece that I'd like to comment on. So I have viewers, and I'm really glad to see that I have viewers that are in their 20s. I have viewers that are in their 30s. And I would tell you that one of the things that I did when I was a youngster back in my 20s is I looked at older men, older, mainly men. I didn't ask any ladies for financial advice. And I said, hey, I want what that guy has. Like, there was a real estate investor, and I met him through one of the jobs that I had. And the guy was super cool. And that guy taught me so much. And I think he wanted to teach somebody. That guy was a firefighter, and he started developing real estate and became a multimillionaire. Well, that was a good guy to ask questions from. And then there was an entrepreneur, really successful guy, taught me so much. So I'm really glad to see that younger investors are seeking knowledge, because that knowledge will make you millions of dollars. That's just a fact. And if you get better and better each decade, you'll accelerate your net worth. You'll become a better
100%.
investor, and you will empower yourself and have more money than you need, or your family needs, or the people that you love and want to take care of need. Having said that, now the question, it's more of a discussion point, is looking at, and I don't know how old you are, Brad, but let's say you have a good friend, a dear friend, maybe a cousin, graduated from college. He's 22, he or she. What advice would you give that person and say, here's 3 to 5 things that if you can focus on these things for the next 5 years, I think you're going to be on the right path?
Right after graduation, focusing on 3 things, I would say, try as many things as possible, and always just put some money into the S&P 500. Even if you don't want to invest in the market, you don't want to, learn about actually how to build your own portfolios, reading this, reading that in the financial world. Just go buy the dollar cost average into the best market out there, S&P 500 or the Nasdaq, whatever your choice is. But go try as many things as possible, because without trying as many things, you're not going to really know what you're good at. You're going to have your family members telling you, do this, do that, get into this line of work, get into that line of work, because of what they've experienced. But you're not going to know what you're good at until you go out there and try as many things until you really failed. And that's honestly what led me to the market, right? Constant failures and a bunch of other things in life, and then learning the market, and then learning that, every single failure in the market is actually going to help me get 10 times better than it made me previously. So if you do end up in the market in the same way that I ended up in, then shout out to you. But I wouldn't wish this life to anyone. This life is there's much easier money to be made out there. You can get a 9 to 5 job and not have to work 25 hours of a 24 in a day. The trading lifestyle, at least for a day trader, it's a very, you got to be ready to put in ridiculous amounts of work. I'm up all weekend making systems, testing, back testing, researching, charting, looking at news, looking at charts. A lot of people don't want to do all the hard work. They just want to see the glory that trading brings in. They just want to have that gambling addiction fixed that comes from trading. They don't want to put in the hard work. So if you are willing to put in the hard work and all of that, then obviously come into the world of investing and trading that Victor and I are living over here. But for the most part, if you just graduated, just go try a bunch of things. Don't get into trading just yet, because trading's always there. The market's always there. The market's not going anywhere. Just like you said, in the words of the immortal, the great Jim Cramer, there's always a bull market somewhere coming around the corner. So you don't got to worry about that. You don't feel like you're missing out over here. But even though I just said don't feel like this is the market to start, you can wait this out if you really want, because there's always a market, especially if you're young. So don't waste your time too much trying to beat yourself up in the market if you're just 20s, in my opinion.
Excellent. Cool. And my advice to young investors is first and foremost, like the investment in learning, and that's a big concept, is the best dollar for dollar investment you'll ever make. So if each year you just get a little better, by the time you hit 35, you're just going to be on the right track. You're going to buy a house. You're going to empower yourselves to do stuff you want to do. You're going to go to Europe. You're going to take your young family or yourself to Europe. You're going to take time off. You're going to do all kinds of things that you're empowered to do. You have to invest in yourself. Part of what I hear a lot of, and it's kind of distracting, but I think most people kind of see through it. You only live once kind
You
of
only live
mentality.
once.
Now, I am sure it's worked out nicely for 1 out of 1,000, 1 out of 10,000, 1 out of 100,000 investors that take that approach. Now, I'm either too wise or too afraid, because I work too hard for my money to take that on. I would just encourage young investors, look, I'm gonna make the statement, then I come back to a documentary I saw earlier. So time is one of the elements in the overall equation. You have to give Meta's time to go from a very sold off position that it was in 2022. So time gave you a 500% return on Meta over 2 years. That's a very clear example of what a stock can do. Some stocks take longer. Bitcoin, it's gone up and down. Coinbase, up and down, and so forth. So continue to learn. The constant should be learning, and let the market kind of teach you some lessons. Try to find a process, a recipe that you understand, that you can replicate. For me, I go to my experiences, my education, my abilities, and I take that on, and then I try to do something with it. You try to find your experiences. You may learn those, by the way. You may learn to be either a long-term investor, pick industries that you think you can understand. You might love space exploration. Wonderful. It's not my lane. Maybe that's yours. You might love pharmaceutical. Great. So go there. The piece that I would, encourage not to get distracted by is the fast dollar. Like hey, this person did it this way and they made $1 million. Yeah. Okay. But that's lightning in a bottle, and it's really hard to catch lightning in a bottle. But
Everyone wants to be Roaring Kitty just because he almost became a billionaire off of GME short squeezes, but that's like a once in a lifetime event.
Warren Buffett's made over $150 billion, and he did it a very in a very practical
Yeah.
way. He's not a genius. He's not like, oh my God, the guy was testing. Harvard declined Warren Buffett. He went to Columbia for his MBA. Okay. So that's exactly the point is you can make a ton more money if you have a path, right? Now it's not going to happen overnight. It may not happen for 20 years, but once you get a sizable net worth and you really start seeing your net worth work, I think it's probably going on 10 years that I've made more money from my investments than I have professionally. And I'm a well-paid professional. I work in the software industry and I do really well. But my investments have pretty much outperformed my working for 10 plus years, especially with real estate, by the way. So that's where I would say, hey, young investors, keep learning, try to pick industries as a long-term investor mentality. Pick industries that you think if you can dominate 3 industries where you know in and out what a good company looks like, and you're going to do really well. And then you can keep expanding to that, but only pick industries where you know the insides and outs. Pick some things that you're going to expand your knowledge base. You know, Bitcoin being a really good example. I was introduced to Bitcoin by a 12-year-old son. He's 20 now, who came home and said, hey, Dad, I want to start mining Bitcoin. And I was like, well, what's Bitcoin? And from there, my learning started. And I bought him GPUs. He mined Bitcoin in his room. I'm glad he didn't burn down the house. And then I started learning about Bitcoin and I started investing and just trying to, because like the crypto space is so different than what we had in the history, in our history, I should say. It's so far different than fiat currencies that it really does take an open mind. But once you kind of get there, you're like, okay, a lot is revealed to you. So just keep learning as a young investor. Now let's talk about older investors. Older investors, you know, you have a lot of knowledge and I would say capitalize on that knowledge. Go back to those industries that you really know and start playing those industries in a long-term way. I imagine you would also provide some advice there if they wanted to trade that if you know industries and you can pick up on trends very quickly, you're going to have an advantage. Let's say you worked in the logistics industry for 40 years. Well, you're probably going to know FedEx, UPS, you know, Penske Logistics and so forth really, really well. And you could probably pick up on trends, either short stocks, long stocks, or do what you would like to do to make money in that industry. So anyway, that's some advice for young investors as well as mature investors. All right. So it looks like Angry Buddha has dominated the chat, which is great.
Bitcoin.
He is a Bitcoin guy, which is awesome. And I think Bitcoin's going to keep rocking again. I think it's going to exceed 100 grand by the end of the year.
There's one problem that Bitcoin might have had recently, and that is Jim Cramer saying Bitcoin is a winner. So I'm not sure if Bitcoin is going to continue going up. Ever since he said that, I mean, you just saw what the chart looked like straight down.
So Jim Cramer and Bitcoin, for me, they don't belong in the same paragraph and they don't belong in the same book. I appreciate Jim Cramer. I like some things he says, but I mean, there's some people that are just so far removed from, I think the next paradigm of currencies. I mean, I see a lot of use cases for Bitcoin. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about Jim Cramer talking about Bitcoin. I think it's going to keep going up. I do think Michael Saylor, if hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly, of MicroStrategy, he is quickly becoming the next, you know, Oracle. I don't know where he's from. The Oracle from Omaha is Warren Buffett, but he's quickly becoming the Oracle of wherever he's from. The guy, I mean, I was listening to him like 5 years ago and I'd be like, okay, I get what you're saying. I just don't believe it all the way. Now,
But
like,
would it really be an oracle when he's orchestrating the move on Bitcoin? You know, like is that really being an oracle? Let's be realistic here.
now if you listen to his, I'm going to call it his dissertation on Bitcoin. It's a dissertation. It's like graduate. He deserves an honorary PhD in I guess currencies, and
Bitcoinism.
yeah, he just goes into the scarcity of it all and how it really is going to go up just based on the sheer demand on Bitcoin. He really explains it at a very high intellect, and I would understand it, but I just wouldn't buy in. It's kind of like, yeah, I get it. And now that everything's kind of happening the way I think,
So my whole problem with MicroStrategy is you know it doesn't really sell anything. All it does is buys cryptocurrencies and holds cryptocurrencies, aka Bitcoin, right? It just buys Bitcoin and holds Bitcoin on their books. Now you have all of these shareholders or investors, let's say investors and shareholders who are buying into this dream of Michael Saylor, which is cool. Nothing wrong with buying into a dream, nothing wrong with buying the hype. Then you got Michael Saylor taking the money that he's basically getting from the shareholders, putting it into Bitcoin directly. Then when MicroStrategy goes up, dilutes the company 100%. 100% of the float got diluted just so he could buy more Bitcoin with it at the top. So you're basically pushing Bitcoin higher by diluting your own flow. You're basically creating the squeeze on Bitcoin that creates the squeeze on your own stock. It's almost the infinite money glitch until it's not, right? Until it's not. And that's what happened Friday, where MicroStrategy and Bitcoin move weren't correlated anymore. They were vastly dislocated. Bitcoin was doing fine, and MicroStrategy dropped like 200 points or 100 points, I want to say. So it was very dislocated that day. So what happens when the actual cards start falling on Bitcoin? You started buying Bitcoin. Let's say your average right now on Bitcoin is probably 40, 50, 60K on MicroStrategy because of all the coins that you've been buying into 80K, 90K, 100K, trying to push Bitcoin into 100K. Eventually, you've probably seen what happened to Viacom and Bill Huang. He took money from a bunch of banks, put it all into Viacom CBS, Viacom CBS. Eventually, those banks found out that he loaned from every single one, and they said, you know what, we're unrolling this position because we are all going to go bankrupt if this shit actually comes out this way. They unroll the position, Viacom, bam, boom, all the way back to the down. Bill Huang gets 10 years in prison. So what is actually happening here with Bitcoin and MicroStrategy?
well, I got a response. And so first, MicroStrategy was a software company before they got into Bitcoin. So they did have a real business, and their software does analytics. Like MicroStrategy analytics software was the original business. Now, what's I would say that the MicroStrategy business is a lot like Berkshire Hathaway. When you look at Berkshire Hathaway doesn't do anything. They own Apple stock. They own a bunch of
But
stocks.
that's very different. Berkshire Hathaway owns Apple stocks. That's actually selling products, the products that world's buying. You know, everyone around the world has an Apple earphone, Apple product, Apple
Well,
watch, Apple
hold
nose
on,
ring.
dude. You're beginning to sound like some old school Charlie
I'm just
Munger
I'm just
dude.
so puzzled with what's going on. How? Okay, so Victor, do you think you are not equally capable of going out there and buying Bitcoin instead of buying MicroStrategy? You could do the exact same thing, right?
No, uh,
Yes, you could go
no.
buy Bitcoin the same way he's buying, but instead people are giving him the money so he could dilute your flow and then go buy more Bitcoin and then dilute that float again and then go buy more Bitcoin. I am losing my mind here on this whole
Well, let
pyramid
me.
scheme.
So again. So let me kind of explain I guess my thesis on MicroStrategy, and I'm not a MicroStrategy stockholder.
Okay, okay.
So so could I buy like MicroStrategy? The answer is no. And I'm a very advanced investor. Okay. Now, let's say you're Joe, 55-year-old investor, and you're like, okay, I can barely spell BTC, but I want to be an investor. Buying MicroStrategy is a very solid entry point because you're buying into Bitcoin and you're having what I believe, okay, people can argue with me, is a very capable, intelligent, forward thinking organization. Are they going to nail it every time? No. But what hedge fund ever does? Certain hedge funds rock for 5 years and then they have a couple bad years and then they rock again, the good ones. So MicroStrategy is like a hedge fund. It's like Berkshire Hathaway in a lot of ways. Berkshire Hathaway, I think they got out of their position in, was it in Paramount that they figured out? Yeah, it's
A
not a
bunch
good
of
company.
stuff. Ulta Beauty,
Yeah,
Paramount, bunch of
Ulta.
stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I get your point that, oh, those are real businesses. I get it, but they're shares of stock. They're not running those businesses. They own a intangible asset, which is a share of stock. Those stocks could go to zero. Okay. Some stocks go to zero. All right. So can Bitcoin go to zero? Absolutely. So could stocks. So they're a new generation company that's become a hedge fund slash a company that the balance sheet is Bitcoin. Okay, that's fine. So they become very unique. So do I want to buy in MicroStrategy? Well, no. I own Bitcoin. I am comfortable buying more Bitcoin, but I would probably be foolish in saying I could buy as good as they can. They're buying pretty good tranches of Bitcoin. They're doing some very innovative things. Like they came out with this zero coupon convertible bond, and it's going to be secured by Bitcoin. Now I read it, and I can't buy it. You have to be an institutional investor, but that's pretty freaking awesome. That's pretty impressive that they're taking what is historically a very low risk asset class, bonds. They're saying, we commit to giving you, just to keep it simple, $1 million back in 5 years. And if everything goes bad, it's secured by Bitcoin. Okay. And now that is a very innovative instrument that they've introduced to the market. Nobody else is even close to that. So when you look at like the ETFs that are out there, I own 0 ETFs of Bitcoin because those ETFs, all they're doing is sponging money from the process. They're not telling you like how they're not introducing innovation into the market. So I do think MicroStrategy does deserve credit. I don't own the stock. I kind of wish I did. I own Coinbase. I own Bitcoin. I own Ethereum. That's the horse that I'm riding. And we'll see where things go. MicroStrategy, what's their market cap today? 85 billion. When they were just a software company, their stock was a $50 stock. Now it's a $400 stock. I think most stock investors would say, Michael Saylor, we completely approve with your performance. Thank you. Anyway, not to argue too much about that. I understand your point of view and hopefully understand mine. Actually, their stock was trading at $14 a share when they were just a software company. Now they're $421 a share. So I don't know that we're going to find one MicroStrategy stockholder that said, when you were a software company, I was an investor. And then when you got into Bitcoin, I decided to leave. That investor would probably be really dissatisfied.
Very, very unhappy with their decision.
And look at this chart. Back in the dot-com bubble, see, this is when they were just a pure software company. They did get pumped up and then they crashed. And now they've exceeded the previous dot-com price. Isn't that interesting? Wow. Cool. My industry, I've competed against MicroStrategy. They were my competitor. I sold like software and have known them for 20, 25 years. All right. Awesome stream. Angry Buddha continues to pump very interesting comments here. Let's see if I can keep up with it all, and then we'll shut it down. So MicroStrategy is a cooperative with a credit rating. There you go. See, like a cooperative, like farmer cooperative. All right, then. And then Berkshire bought the MicroStrategy. See, man, it's all coming together, Prad. We're gonna be getting paid in bitcoins in the
The
distant
market,
future.
yeah, the market's gonna pay you out in fractional BTCs. That's the clearing firm going forward. Well,
Oversubscribed
with
on that
the
zero coupon bond, right? So if I think you're aware that I invest in bonds. It's a different asset class, and what they introduce is really innovative. I think that might be also like a new kind of combination asset class.
investment, yeah.
And it's kind of like, whoa, you're taking two worlds and combining the two. It's like have you had good Mexican food? Have you
No,
had good
as good as you can get in Canada. It's pretty far away from
in LA? We
Mexico.
have delicious
Yeah,
Mexican food. Have you had
yeah.
good Korean food?
Oh yeah, we have some good Korean spots here.
And we have good Korean food in LA. Now, when you go to a Korean Mexican place and you have Korean tacos, it makes my head explode. I'm like, yeah, that's what MicroStrategies is doing.
Right on. Congratulations on Max Verstappen winning the Formula One championship. By the way, I see your Oracle hat
That's
going
right.
on.
That's right. Max getting it done. They're getting closer. He didn't win by a big margin this year.
Yeah, he won. It's basically over at this point. I
Yeah,
think they gave it to him, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he pretty much won. There's no way he can lose it.
My
And
team did win 1 and 2 in the most unattended Grand Prix on the year circuit, which was Las Vegas. The grandstands looked empty the whole time.
really, damn.
Yeah.
I wish I would have been. Well, I was having fun with my wife, but if I would have gotten word of that, I would have. I'm in Los Angeles, so getting to Vegas is easy. Maybe gotten out there and gotten some tickets. I So I bought my wife a brand new Mercedes about two weeks ago.
You were mentioning nice, congratulations.
Yeah, and what's cool is I think I bought it for her on November. What is today? 24th. So November 3rd, and she's wonderful, and her current car, she's had it for 12 years. It's a Mercedes, and I bought it for her 2012. And I've been asking her to buy a new car for 2 years because I worry when I travel, I want her to be in a new car. But she has poor taste in husbands, but high taste in cars. And so I got her a nice $100,000 car, paid cash, and in the month of November, I've made 120 grand. So it's pretty much I'm up 20 grand, including that spend. So I'm good.
We'll take it.
Yeah,
Take
yeah.
it. Was it one of those Mercedes that bounces?
Now it's a GLS 450. I
Okay,
don't.
okay.
Which one bounces?
There's the one of the more recent Mercedes that they made that bounces mainly to like untrap itself from the Dubai sands and so on, so
Really?
it can kind of jiggle itself and bounce. Let me try to find it up. It's a Mercedes. Oh, my keyboard keeps falling asleep.
To get out of sand, incredible.
Mercedes bounce car. What's the bounce car? Which Mercedes car? The GLS 600.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen it, but she does have a GLS. It's a 450, and she's happy. I'm happy, and thank you, stock market. Got got the cash. I was
Did
in
you put
cash.
the license plate of the ticker that paid for it, like Meta or something? Paid by
No,
Meta.
no, but she's good with her cars. 12 years from now, I guess I'll buy her another one.
Oh yeah.
All right, buddy. Well, it's a pleasure to stream with you. I'll be tuning in this week to your stream, and we'll close out. You know that this week is Thanksgiving for the U.S., so we'll have Thursday close. But I think Friday there's trading, right?
Friday half day, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so I should be able to tune in and watch you perform. and I'll be streaming. I don't know what kind of schedule I can follow. I've been incredibly busy business wise, and it's a good thing. Doing some really interesting projects overall, but it's been really fun to have the live stream, and I'll be in touch, buddy. I hope you
Yes,
have a nice
sir.
weekend. The
Thank you
remainder
for
of it.
having me. Take
All
care.
right. Take care, Prad.